Decide for yourself. The downsides of rejecting the CEO self-model. You've probably heard the advice. Stop trying to control everything. Let go of the ego. Just be. It sounds liberating, and in many ways, it is. But what happens when we take that advice too far? What happens when we reject the idea that there's even anyone inside steering the ship? Welcome to the paradox of rejecting the CEO's self-model. Of rejecting the notion that somewhere inside us lives a persistent, autonomous decision-maker who directs the activities of the mind and body. When you throw that model out completely, things can get weird fast. See? The CEO self may be an illusion, but it's occasionally a useful illusion. It provides the organizing principle that keeps our thoughts, emotions, and impulses from spinning off in different directions. It's what allows us to say things like, "I'll finish this project," or "I'll change that habit." Without it, the human system risks becoming a meeting with no moderator, a cacophony of competing voices with no one calling the agenda. The first major downside is the loss of narrative. Human beings live through story, and stories need protagonists. When you reject the idea of a central self, the story of me can dissolve into a scattered collection of experiences, sensations and emotions with no thread connecting them. Psychologists sometimes call this decentering. In meditation, it can feel expansive, like watching thoughts drift across a vast sky. But outside of practice, it can feel like life has lost its plot. Motivation weakens. Memory fragments. Even joy feels thinner, because there's no character left to feel it. The second downside is moral confusion. If no one is really doing anything, if choices are just the sum of conditions, then what happens to ethics? What happens to responsibility, or regret, or the drive to improve? When the doer disappears, so does the moral compass that points toward growth. Compassion may increase, sure, but accountability fades. We stop saying, "I made a mistake," and start saying, "Mistakes happen." And while that may sound enlightened, it can quickly slide into indifference. And the third danger of rejecting the CEO self-model: existential paralysis. Modern life depends on the belief in agency. Society runs on contracts, commitments, and cause and effect. Rejecting the CEO self too literally means rejecting the very structure that allows us to navigate time. You might still talk, and plan, and work, but a quiet dissonance creeps in. You're acting as if you're an agent, while believing you're not. It's a kind of philosophical short circuit, a performative contradiction. And it can leave you stuck, confused, or even depressed. So what's the way forward? Maybe the CEO isn't real in the ultimate sense, but maybe that's not the point. Just as the Bohr atom was never the final model of physics, the CEO self doesn't have to be the final model of mind. It's a tool, a symbolic fiction that keeps the system coherent long enough for awareness to deepen. Rejecting it entirely, without replacing it with a more skillful integrative framework, doesn't free us from illusion. It just fragments the structure that holds our humanity together. So yes, see through the CEO, recognize its limits, but don't fire it just yet. Because without someone calling the meeting to order, the meeting never really begins.